Well, hello. I'm Abram. You heard about me last week. My servant was here and he was telling you some of the stories about me and our life together. But there's so much more that happened. There's so many more things that I could tell you about my life and something that he couldn't tell you about me. Well, it's something that only I knew. And it was something only I can tell you. So I want to tell you. I want to tell you of my journey towards God, my journey with God, and my struggle with God. Surely you've had that. You know what I mean when I say your struggle with God. Well, it all began really when we were in the land of Chaldee in Ur, when my brother Haran died, and my father decided that we were going to move. We were originally going to go to the land of Canaan, but we went to Syria, and there was such a beautiful place there. We stayed there, and my father named it Haran in honor of my brother. And you know, a funny thing about journeys, as you know, they give you a lot of time to think. And it was a long journey to Syria. And on that journey, I began to think more about who God was and who God is. See, when we were in Chaldee, my family had always known Jehovah. Jehovah had always been kind of part of our family. But it got to a point where he was, at least for me anyway, one of the other gods. We had a lot of gods in Chaldee. We had a lot of idols. We had many gods for many different needs, and Jehovah just happened to be one of them. And so I figured, well, you know, if I could use Jehovah to get what I wanted, well, why not? That's the purpose of gods in our life, right? I mean, that's the purpose of idols. And in fact, it's interesting to me looking back, we set up idols for the exact things that we wanted that idol to be. You know what I mean. I mean, we had idols for land and homes and flocks and herds and wealth and power and reputation. I mean, you know about those idols. We all have, you know, you're human. You have a heart like I have a heart. We tend to set up those idols. And maybe you were like me and Jehovah was just one of those idols that, well, if I can get something from him to help me, I'll do that. So I started to get to know Jehovah. And you know, I would stay up late at night. Everybody else would go to bed, and I would stay up. And sometimes I'd go for a walk, or sometimes I would just sit by the fire. But always, I would look up at those stars. You ever been in the desert and you look up at the stars? I mean, there's millions, there's billions of those stars. And they twinkle. And they're all in these patterns. And some are far away and some are bright and some are, they're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. And I loved looking at those stars. I loved staying up when nobody was around and it gave me time to think. Time to plan, time to hope, time to dream. And those stars made me dream and hope and think. But it's a little scary also. Because I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but you're in this vast land with this vast sky above you. And you realize that you're just a little tiny insignificant nothing really in this whole entire universe. And I would talk to God. And it dawned on me one day that here I am, Abram, just small Abram, in the midst of billions and billions of stars. And I got to talk to the guy who made them. I got to talk to the God who made them. I don't know the word I would put to that. Small maybe, important maybe, no. I think the word I would give that was security. I felt secure. I felt like, here I am, insignificant compared to the universe. And God wanted to talk to me. And God wanted to listen to me. And God wanted to know me. And so I got to learn to talk to God. I got to learn to hear God. I got to learn to know God. I got to realize that God had a plan for me. I mean, who am I that God would have a plan for me? That the God of the universe would say to me, I have a plan for you. That just changed my whole world. Because my whole world was, I had a plan for God. I knew what I wanted God to do for me. I knew what I wanted in life. I knew my plans. I knew what I needed and what I desired, and I was going to use God to get that. I had a plan for God. But I realized that God had a plan for me. For me. Maybe you've felt that way. That God has a plan for you. Well, after we got to Haran and we settled down, I would still go on and talk to God. I would still look at the stars. I would still get to know him. And in one of those nights when I was out walking, God said something to me. God came to me and he said, Abram, I am going to bless you. I am going to give you the land of Canaan. I want you to go there. And I want you to leave where you're at, and I want you to go there, and I'm going to give you the land, and I am going to make you into a great nation. And I'm going to make your name great. And I will bless you, and I will bless all who bless you, and I will curse all those who curse you. And I will use you to bless the whole entire world. Talk about plans. Wow. But I got to tell you something. I was angry. I was angry at God. I was hurt. Because God said to me, your descendants are going to inherit this land. That hurt. Because maybe you know, I don't have any descendants. At that point in time, I was in my 80s. My wife, Sarah, who was 10 years younger than me, was in her 70s. We didn't have any children. We couldn't have any children. That was the one place that God put his finger on that would have hurt me the most. And he put his finger on it. Do you have one of those places? You have one of those places in life where you don't talk about it and you don't allow anybody else to talk about it because there's some pain in the past, or maybe it's in the present, but you don't want to talk about it and you don't want to let it come to the surface because it hurts and you don't want to hurt. And the only time it really bothers you is when you're alone with your own thoughts. So you don't get alone with your own thoughts. And it hurts even more because you know God. And God has taken care of everything else in your life, and God has blessed you in everything else. But that one thing in your life that hurts the most, he's not doing anything about. We tried to have kids. We tried everything there was. We did everything there was to do. We did the crazy, wild, desperate things that despairing people do. But we couldn't have children. Our friends were having children. Our family were having children. They were laughing. They were having a great time. They would announce that they were pregnant. Everybody would be happy for them, and we had to be happy for them. But we weren't happy. We watched as they would have 1 child and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, and they'd keep having children. And it was no problem for them. So why not us, God? He didn't answer. For years, we watched everybody else's kids grow up. We watched them add to their families. We watched them do birthdays. We watched how great it was when their kids learned to walk and talk and do all these things. But we didn't have any. Oh, sure, we had nephews and nieces, but we didn't have any of our own. And it hurt. And people looked at us. And they wondered, what was wrong with us? What was wrong with Abram and Sarah? Why wasn't God giving them children? Was there something wrong with them? Was God angry with them? Oh, they never said that out loud. You know that. But we knew. They were thinking it. Maybe they're not blessed by God because they don't have children. See, I don't know what it's like in your day today, but in my day, children were a definite sign of a blessing from God. And if you didn't have a bunch of them, you weren't blessed. It meant that God was not existent in your life, or he did not like you. Nobody came out and said that. They respected us enough, but we knew. So it was a good thing when we moved away from Ur. We at least got away from that part of it, but you know, that which is deep within you comes with you. Your deepest hurts, your deepest pain, that which causes you hurt and sometimes shame stays with you wherever you go. And God said, go to Canaan. I'm going to give you the land for your children. I didn't talk to God for a while. I didn't go on my walks. I was too busy to walk now. It was too cold to sit by the fire. Oh, I had every excuse why I did not need to talk to God. Hey, we're moving. God, don't have time. Sorry. Hey, I got to set up a new... No, sorry, God, don't have time. But he didn't let it go. He kept putting his finger on my heart. Abram. And he reminded me over and over, I'm giving this to your children. Finally, after Lot and I parted ways, I turned and looked at the land that was mine, and God said, I am giving this to your descendants. And I said, God, what are you talking about? I don't have descendants. Hello? Who are you going to give it to? I'm in my 80s. Sarah's in their 70s. Have you ever heard of anybody having a baby in their 70s? Doesn't happen. Too late. I said, God, are you talking about my relatives in Damascus? Is that who you're going to give this land to? Are those my descendants? Are you talking about my servants? Will one of my servants inherit all my land? Is that my descendants? What are you talking about, God? And God said, no, I'm giving it to your descendants, Abram. You and Sarah are going to have a child. And you and Sarah are going to have grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I thought God was crazy. Who is this God? I thought I knew God. I figured all those days and weeks and years of talking to God, I had him figured out. But then he comes up with that? How could that possibly be? It was impossible. But God said, Abram, I want you to go for a walk with me. Okay. And he said, look up into the stars. God had been looking up into the stars for a long time. Okay, I'll look again. And he said, what do you see? I see stars. Count them. Well, God, you know I can't count them. There's millions. There's billions. I can't count them, God. And he said, Abram, I promise you that your own descendants, coming from you and Sarah, will be as numerable as those stars, and you won't be able to count them. Something happened that night to me. I've been looking up into the stars forever, it seemed like. And I had my plans and my thoughts and my dreams. And every time I looked up, that's what I thought about. But when I looked up in the stars this time, and God said, your own descendants are going to be like them. For the first time, I looked up in those stars and I said, God, I don't get it. Let's talk about the thing that pains me the most. See, I could talk to God about everything else, and I was good at it. And I knew what pained me the most, but I talked around it with God because I didn't want to actually get to the middle of it. And God confronted me with it and said, now it's time to talk. And I looked up in those stars, and I wept. And I said, okay, God, okay. I give up. I give up my dreams. I give up my plans. I give up my hopes. And God, I take yours. I believe you. I believe you, God. I give up. And for the first time ever, I think I started to know God. I think I gave everything to God. It wasn't easy. And I got to tell you that I sometimes failed. We actually didn't. Well, you know how the story ends. You know my life. You know that we did have a son whose name is Isaac. But you know, we didn't have Isaac till about 20 years after that conversation with God. I was 100. Sarah was 90. That's a lot of years to wait. That's a lot of years to have faith. That's a lot of years for doubt to creep in. That's a lot of years for people to say different things and talk about what God isn't giving me. And I got to tell you, I failed. I wish I could tell you I believed God and I stuck with it and I never did anything against that. But Sarah and I were getting desperate. And we knew God had promised us a son. And it wasn't happening. And so instead of waiting for God and trusting God, we decided to pick up our own plan. And so I had a son through Hagar, Sarah's handmaid. It wasn't right. It wasn't God's plan. It wasn't what I should have done. But you know what surprised me? What surprised me was God kept his promise anyway. Even though I doubted, even though I disobeyed, even though I went my own way at times, God still kept his promise to me. And Isaac was born. Isaac, by the way, you know what his name means? It means laughter. He who laughs. All those years when we listened to the laughter of everybody else, now we had it. God took the pain of our past and he transformed it into the joy and laughter of our future. Because God does that. God wants to take the pain of your past, the pain of your present. And I'll guarantee you this, he will turn it into joy in the future. I know it doesn't seem like it. I didn't believe it either. But this is the God we know. This is the God who is. The God who takes pain and suffering and transforms it into joy and laughter. I don't know how he does it, but I can tell you he does. God has promised you his presence. He has promised you good things. I don't know what's happening in your life. I don't know where you're at. I don't know what happened. But I know this, that God will take the pain of your past and transform it into joy in the future. Wait for him. Trust him. He'll do it. Let me pray. God, I am often surprised by some of the stories you put in the Bible for us. I'm surprised and amazed at how you take normal people and you do extraordinary things because you're God. And so I pray that God, as you are speaking to the deepest part of our heart, as you are speaking to our woundedness and our suffering and our pain and even shame, God, I pray that you would keep speaking to us that way. Because, God, you want us to give it up to you so you can transform it. God, let us not protect it, talk around it, pretend it's not there. But, God, transform our pain. Walk us through the pain that we might experience the joy of tomorrow. So I pray this and I ask it in your name, Jesus. Amen.